No, my computer's stuck on volume.
Try the jerk phone. There.
Okay, whenever you're ready. See you. Yes. Test. Can you hear me? Whoever's supposed to hear me, can you hear me? Okay. I'm whenever you give me the heads up, wait for Galena. There she is.
Good morning.
Hello, San Miguel County. We had a traffic jam that is holding us up a little bit this morning, so just bear with us and we'll get going in 3 minutes. That sound right? Okay, thank you.
When I went to home.
We okay? Some echo.
Is this better?
Hello. Yes.
When I went to home, I had it this morning. I'm used to like seeing how far and like, okay, I can or I can't. And I was like, oh no, I can't. And then I realized they were going like 20 miles. And then I got out and realized why they were going 20 miles an hour, which was, it was ridiculous.
Oh. I'm gonna see your nod.
Next to Jared last night. Yeah. I'm gonna watch out.
Probably cold, right?
Tomorrow, then when we got it's icy, please be at the bus stop 10 minutes early. I was like, yeah, we should send this out to our staff. Why don't you hear 10 minutes early because it's icy?
Or just start your commute 10 minutes early.
That would be it.
Mhm.
He was willing to let me send that
I
message
said,
to all staff.
that will take full credit.
We are just a couple minutes out, San Miguel County. We had a down valley traffic jam, so we're a couple minutes late getting going, but we will be with you soon. Perfect. Making progress. Yeah. Okay, great. Almost in there. Icy road. Yeah. Woohoo. Take what we can get. There's the lady we were looking for. We just need to let Galena start her camera, but that's not urgent while we get through these first few items. Okay. Good morning, San Miguel County. It is 9:34 on Wednesday, February 12th. This is a work session of the San Miguel County Board of Commissioners. I am calling this meeting to order. Present in the room are all three commissioners and staff. We will begin our meeting with a moment of silence for grounding and gratitude. Thank you. Moving on to item number 4, review of the agenda. Does anybody have an adjustment? No from Lance? Anything from you? I did speak with the county attorney just a minute ago, and item 8B, potential executive session, is not necessary. We don't yet have an update on all of that, so we will push that off until we do. Okay, we now are on item 5, public comment for items not on the agenda. Please limit comments to 3 minutes. If comments are not related to an item on the agenda, there will be no board response or action taken, since the topic was not posted with proper notice, and any comment could potentially violate the Colorado open meeting law. If you would like to make a 3-minute public comment, please raise your hand. We have no members of the public in the room, so I am looking online. Anybody have anything they would like to share? I don't see anybody. Okay, we will now close public comment and move on to item 6A. Oh, you see somebody? Okay, that is somebody without a name. And I thought we only admitted people to the room with a full name on their Zoom account.
They're in by phone.
That's a phone, it looks like. 1332. Let's see if I know who that person might be.
Maybe they just identify themselves.
Okay, that's a good idea. Yeah, I don't see. Okay, we will unmute the phone number. If you could please introduce yourself, let us know where you reside and your affiliation, if any. Go ahead, phone number ending in 1332.
Hi, this is Doug Tooley, regular resident of Mountain Village, currently in California, calling in by phone due to the current congestion on the tower here. You may recall the request of myself for your social services manager to Linnea Edwards to respond to my adult protection request. She did so. It was even more inappropriate than delay in the history of delays or complete ignoring of same. She's claiming jurisdiction where she has none. And is retaliating against me in areas where she doesn't have any authority at all, which is part of the subject of the complaint and a subject she ignored in her summary. So I make notice of that to the BOCC and to Mr. Bordonia. I presume these are political issues going back to the previous board and legal counsel and Carol Friedrich, younger spouse of the town of Mountain Village municipal judge. Thank you.
Mr. Tooley, safe travels to you.
I'm sorry? Is it breaking up?
Mr. Padilla.
Cut out for a second there, Anthony.
Well, I'm getting a notice that says the host would like you to unmute, but you don't want me to unmute, do you? Right, and I keep getting that, so I say stay muted. Mr. Padilla, are you with us? There he is.
I am. Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. How about yourselves?
Fine, thank you. Let me just see if I can pin you so we can see you better. There you are. Hi. We are looking forward to your update.
All right, so I'll get started.
Oh, sorry, before,
So,
have you
oh,
met Commissioner Gleason yet? Sorry, we have a new District 3 Commissioner seated here with us, Galena Gleason.
Hi, Derek.
hello. I believe she was on last time we spoke as a member of the audience. I don't know that she was part of the commission just yet.
I was. Good memory, though. Thanks.
Yes. All right, but good to meet you officially now.
You as well.
So I'll get started. Gunnison Sage Grouse, last time I talked with you all, we had passed they had made a final decision on the Gunnison Sage Grouse Resource Management Plan Amendment. I have been in contact with Star and Ryan Rigetti with regards to U-29 Road. I sent them a proposal that our wildlife biologist, Nathaniel West, had gone out and looked at as a potential reroute for U-29. And I haven't heard back since then. So I'm not sure how what they thought of that. Star did mention that there was, discussion with regards to a potential timing restriction on U-29 in lieu of a reroute. So anyways, at any time, Star and or Ryan want to get out there on the ground and take a look at it, I told them to give me some dates, when would be available for them to go do that, that we could schedule something and get that completed. But we continue to be willing to work with you all with regards to U-29 and what we want to do with that here into the future. Any questions on that?
None for me.
No, but I do see Stars on the line. Perhaps she is able to comment on initial thoughts, or is it just a matter of getting together, Star, with Derek and his team?
That's correct. Yes, we did receive that, and I believe I had responded with the thought that rather than a reroute, looking at possibly a road closure. So Ryan and I will have to get together with you. I know that Ryan wanted to come to your office, but it may be quicker that we just jump online and have a meeting
I think what
to have
Derek's
that first
offering
discussion.
is a meeting at the site, but whatever you guys need to do to work that through, it seems like it's been a long time coming, and this is a golden opportunity. Let's jump on it.
As I recall, the last time we discussed this, the BOCC, we asked how extensive the reroute was going to be, and it was miles and miles and very expensive. And we also determined that currently there are no sage grouse in the area, although we do hope that they will come back with the efforts that are being undertaken. So I would suggest rather than Star and Ryan and Derek all making the trip to meet out there and look at the reroute that is maybe unlikely given the expense, that maybe they have a meeting, as Star suggested, online to talk about whether a closure might be a prudent alternative. What do you all think about that?
Yeah, I support that. And just having listened in on that previous meeting, that's what I understood was maybe make the most fiscal and logistical sense.
Okay, how does Star and Derek feel about that?
Yeah, go ahead, Star.
That's what I had was suggesting, is that to have a first meeting to see if that's feasible, because of your tract of going down the road of looking at a reroute, to then having the discussion, would a road closure be feasible? There is private land in the area. And then we can do a site visit if that is the next step, and looking at a road closure, and where would that be?
I think I saw a thumbs up from Ryan. I have a question, Mr. Padilla. Did the wildlife biologists report, or I'm not sure what you refer to it as, did that provide any mileage estimates in terms of the reroute, or cost estimates or anything like that?
Not cost estimates, but the original reroute was about 4 miles long, whereas the new reroute is about 1 mile long. So it's significantly less mileage. But, like I said, I think that's a great idea to have an initial meeting to discuss, the potential for a timing limitation on the current alignment, and then, make a decision on whether or not, people want to go take a look out on the ground.
Great. That's encouraging that the biologist was able to reduce the suggested reroute from 4 miles to 1 mile. But great. Okay, so carry on. Thank you for that report and discussion.
All right, so then the next thing I was going to talk about was just the San Miguel mining regulations. We were able to meet with Kay Simonson, Starr, and some other members of your staff to discuss those. We did receive another version last week that I have not had the opportunity to take a look at, but a cursory review by some of the other members of my staff said that there was a lot of changes, based on the discussion that we had. So thank you for that. Yeah, we'll review those, and I believe we have a March 12th deadline to provide comments back on the rewrite. So we will do that.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate your guidance there.
Yeah, and then the last thing I was going to talk about is just give you one of the things that we discussed during the mining regulation discussion was that the county was wanting to know what was going on within the county with regards to different mining activities. So I'll just give you an update. We have 2 plans of operations currently active. That's with the Sunday Mine Complex out there. They are actively doing underground mining from what we understand, but there has been no hauling or anything like that to this point. We also have 6 different uranium, vanadium notices in the area that are active currently, which just means that they intend to at some point become active. But there again, we have not been told by any of these companies that they have any intention of becoming fully operational at this point in time.
So
Looks
Derek,
like Kay might have a question.
they're doing exploratory work then.
Correct.
Okay. Hey, good morning. Would you like to unmute yourself?
Yeah. So regarding the Sunday mines, we asked them for information regarding their operations plan. And they gave us that they do have an application in for a hauling permit. They have clarified that this is within the purview of their existing special use permit, and they actually need to start hauling by March 1st to meet their contract with the mills. So we do expect to see hauling begin by the end of the month. I was just waiting.
Just a sec, you froze, Kay. Hello?
Letting Ryan know that it's okay to issue the road and bridge permit.
Hey, you broke up there. We heard you say they needed to start hauling by March 1st for some reason. And then can you carry on from there? Or you could just come downstairs.
Yeah. So I'm going to turn off my video, see if that helps. So yeah, they need to start hauling by March 1st. They have a road and bridge permit in. I was verifying that they were within the purview of their existing special use permit, and it looks like they are. So I'll be contacting Ryan regarding getting that haul permit issued.
Okay, good to know. Any questions for Kay or Derek regarding Sunday Mine? Okay, any other, thank you, Kay. Anything else regarding current mining activity? Derek, we don't want to cut you off.
And then we just have, the 4 gravel pits one of which is yours, two are Dolores County, one's a private entity. And then we also have prospecting permits for potash. There would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those currently active. And that was all.
Okay. What was the fourth gravel pit you said, Sam? Oh, private. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Dry Creek TGH Stone.
Okay. And those gravel pits are on your land. That's why you're mentioning them, right? Because we have additional gravel pits on our own land, right?
Correct. Yes. Those are the ones that are permitted with the Bureau of Land Management.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions, commissioners?
No questions, but you do have a hand up.
Hand up. Okay, let's continue with the Mr. Padilla's report, and then we will take questions from the public as we at the end of that. Thank you.
And that is actually the conclusion of my report, unless there's any questions on any other BLM related topics.
Not from me.
Star has a hand up.
Let's go, Star.
I was curious about the TAP 2. Any updates?
So we're still in kind of a holding pattern with a variety of different NEPA type activities with the new administration change. So I don't have any updates at this point in time, no.
Thank you.
What was the question, Star? I missed that. TAP 2, did you say?
Mhm.
Okay,
And their travel access planning.
thank you. Okay, any other questions from staff or commissioners? Okay, Mr. Tui, you may unmute yourself and ask your question.
That's Tooley with an L-T-O-O-L-E-Y. A couple comments on the U-29 road access issue through the Dry Creek Basin. There is another road, and that is the access to the Paradox Gas Company, or whatever they are called now. They're on the far west side of the Dry Creek Basin. That is actually a better quality road. It is also, as I understand from previous presentations, where the lek habitat is. And so, a seasonal closure on that is kind of a separate, secondary, and I think meritorious issue looking at the Dry Creek Basin. The water is probably closer to U-29. And I'm certainly no biological expert, but I do observe, and I've hiked around in that area, walked around in that area a fair bit. If the commissioners have not been there, or staff, I would encourage you to spend some time there, both as your responsibilities as a commissioner and for your personal enjoyment. Going out to the border with Montrose County, you have a great view of the Stuck Rock Canyon and the Sunday Mine, for that matter, across Big Gypsum Canyon. On the Sunday Mine, that is the access road to the boat launch, and also to some nice country within Montrose County. Nothing of any great significance there in the Big Gypsum Valley, say for the escarpment climbing to U-29. On that access road to the rafting put-in, there is a spot going through a gulch. I previously reported this to Mr. Rigetti and his senior staff member out there in that far west district, where vehicles are hanging up. It's too steep to get in and out of. I saw it with a truck camper that had a motorcycle on the back, totally stuck. I've seen that would happen with trailers as well. I don't recall the specific location in relation to the Sunday Mine access. I'm guessing it's a little bit just past the Sunday Mine access. just passed it, but that is something that could be improved at some point if there is an opportunity that presents itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Well, thank you, Derek, for stopping by. We always appreciate seeing you and hearing from you and the good work that you're doing for us in that field office.
Well, thank you all as well. I appreciate the cooperation and the partnership there.
Thank you. When I say us, I mean the people.
Yes.
Okay. We can now move on to item 6B, which is an update from our communications coordinator, Suzanne Chevins. Come on up, Suzanne.
Hello, everyone. Let's see. This is my very first presentation. It's my very first PowerPoint anything.
You go.
Going to share my screen. And now you can see the chaos of my inner life. Excellent. Let's see. Communications plan update. A year ago, I don't know how to maximize it or anything.
I love the color
I'm very
palette.
old school. You want to see my notebook notes? That's what's real.
You're
Oh, wow.
Hey, look at you.
Thank you, Maura. Can you change the slide for me too?
Sure.
A year ago, the commissioners set out their goals for the 24-25 year of leadership. And part of their many goals was, excuse me, improve communications. And that's where I come in. As of February 28th, it'll be my second year in this position. I don't believe the county had ever had this position officially. During the pandemic, though, there were definitely communicators helping the public understand, but there was never a dedicated position until 2 years ago, February 28th. So that's been me all this time. The main goal was to increase community engagement. There was a feeling that there could be improvements across the board on that, including, let me make that go away, increasing accessibility on all of our San Miguel County platforms, the annual State of the County Address, which occurs every January, and Anne, as our chair this year, just did that. And the constituents having a greater understanding of knowing where to go for info and to put in feedback for various policy decisions and opinions and everything. So is it this one?
Go.
How about
Yeah,
that one?
probably do.
All right. Thank you. Have you met my assistant, Laura? And then some of the things, mostly it was Ann and I who sat down and talked about this array of ways to improve our communications. And I brought a number of things to the table, including a regular column in the Daily Planet, and it's called Commissioner's Corner, and it does run monthly. It's the first Wednesday of every month, and the year kicks off with the State of the County Address, which just ran. And for the first time ever, we also had a full Spanish language translation. And we ran that as a full page ad in last Friday and Sunday's edition of the Daily Planet. A regular live show on KOTO. I'm a KOTO DJ and have been for a long time. So I thought this is a terrific platform, and it is. We have a show called County Lines, and that occurs the third Thursday of each month. Thank you very much, the folks at KOTO. Assistant County Manager Jared Biggs and I go on live on the air and host a number of staff and elected officials to talk about what's current, what's vital, what's happening. Again, another way to outreach to our constituents, to the residents and visitors of San Miguel County. Another little pilot program we did was Coffee with a Commissioner. And Anne, you took that one by the horns. You did real well with that. Each commissioner last year hosted and did two. Lance hosted one, and former Commissioner Chris Holstrom also hosted one. Those are sort of at the whim of your respective schedules, and any issues that might be on the horizon that you think it would be valuable to sit and talk with your constituents. It's very intimate. As you know, I think Lance attracted eight, 9, 10 people maybe, and Anne has
6 or 8.
yeah, 6 or 8 people. I think Chris had about 6 or 8 when she did hers out in Norwood. So again, it's a really kind of a unique, intimate way of speaking with constituents. One thing we did find is that older and retired folks with all the time in the world tend to attend these things. So we have a desire to reach out to our younger residents as well. So just sort of casting around for a good time, excuse me, a good time where people, a younger demographic could possibly attend these. So again, these are sort of on the whims of your respective schedules.
I might
Um,
note that I did one in the afternoon, and that was
mhm.
when we did get a lot of seniors, which was great, but then we thought maybe we should try another time. So I did 5:30 for the second one, and I got all seniors and one young person. So it helped a little
Progress.
bit. Yeah.
Progress. Yeah. And then the other thing I suggested was, just to improve outreach was commissioner presence at social events like senior lunches, nonprofit events, TAR functions. Excuse me, I just spoke in an acronym, which I abhor. It's Telluride Association of Realtors. Um, so again, that's at the whim of your respective schedules, and I know you're out there with your respective communities, so that's great. And then another thing I suggested, but is actually not too necessary, I don't think, but attending other existing meetings. You all have a slate of other committees and boards that you serve on. And I know that Anne went to the O for GA, I think when you were brand new or still campaigning.
I was campaigning for,
Okay,
that was
yeah.
that was a campaign stop on my,
Mhm.
this last.
But my thought was just, really understanding what the other municipalities in our county are up to. And I think obviously the board is excellent on all of those counts. Directed communications include things like the annual insert and the tax notice. And again, thanks to Jared Biggs, we have made that happen 2 tax years in a row now. And the flyer is packed with information. It gives your constituents additional opportunity to not only understand what's in their tax bill and what it's comprised of, but more outreach opportunities and ways to contact the county. And we have covered the annual State of the County address. The quarterly email newsletter is the next one is due out in mid-March, and we're gathering content for that as we speak, and we're pretty much already there. It will be quarterly from here out. There was a little bit of stumbles on my end as far as getting that more frequent last year. That will never happen again. And I'm excited about that again, thanks to Jared Biggs helping me through the technology of something as non-intuitive as MailChimp. And then advertising as warranted. One of the first roles I was handed over by Carmen was take over our little ad in the paper, and I have. And there's always plenty of things to advertise, whether it's board and commission openings or important deadlines coming up. It's a very useful space. And of course, we have advertising in addition to that as warranted. The full page Spanish language translation of State of the County would be a good example of that. Social media has been probably one of the bigger growth areas. We did not have Instagram at all. We have it now. Facebook was kind of moribund. I know the public health aspect of Facebook was very active throughout the pandemic and still is, but the main one that people really tap into has grown quite a bit. It's very, very well used. Social media is probably one of the more powerful tools that any organization has. So I spend all of my life on social media, and that's why I'm crazy. Um, but there's really good reactions. And what I've noticed about social media in general, I know our meeting information, policy information, things like that are all very well read and everything. But when we talk about our people, for instance, when Anne was first sworn in, when we said goodbye to Chris, those posts get a ton of traction. So people care about the people who work for them. So the more people, the more pictures, the better. And we'll just keep that going. And consistently directing people to the Notify Me sign up on the website. Just when you think you can't do it enough, you do it 100 more times. And so that will just continue. News releases, press releases are one of my favorite things to do here. And since the inception of this job and my presence here, probably I'm averaging a little more than 1.5 a week. So also what that serves to do is really get county issues in front of the media. And thanks to the folks at the Telluride Daily Planet and KOTO Radio, we are not ignored. We're in the paper all the time. So it's more or less just me just giving them the little morsels and they run with that. We also discussed open houses and things like that. And I think, and when we were talking about this, this was in the throes of the East End Master Plan when planning department was running all those open houses and things. I think if we get any future tasty issues like that in the future, that's something we can certainly consider. And obviously you'd be working with staff on that to help our public understand what we're up to. And we've never done any polling or surveys. I don't think a need for that has come up, but certainly that is yet another tool that we have to figure out, to get the pulse of what's going on with our constituents.
Just to interject, at our last meeting last week, was it Mike, that you mentioned a survey, a county
Yes.
services assessment survey that will go out? What did we agree?
We talked, I think we're looking at April, May time.
Yeah, exactly. So we are going to do that. So get ready, Susan.
Great, great. Here to help.
Yeah.
And then besides the specifically communications things I am part of the website team. So I help with the back end of the website, keeping it current, getting the various departments' new information up. And that's probably one of the new skills I've acquired I'm most proud of. I didn't think it possible. It made me cry just once, but I've done it. I also provide administrative assistance for the reestablishment of the co-responder program. I am on the wellness committee. I'm the accessibility champion for my department, which is me. I'm no longer backup for Carmen and Nancy at board meetings. I'm Nancy now. So, and also I am the communications representative for the ongoing Suncor Exxon legal filing with the city of Boulder and Boulder County. And that was a pretty fascinating day yesterday. We did have a hearing in front of the Colorado Supreme Court, and then there was a debrief, which we attended virtually yesterday afternoon. So that was pretty cool and fascinating. And also as part of my job, I attend most Board of County Commissioner meetings and County Planning Committee commission meetings. And then looking into the future, at which I am completely dismal, I anticipate continued training, maintain all previously stated projects, and of course, am open to more. I think a succession plan is a wise thing. In that mainly what that means is just getting my ducks in a row. So an eventual handoff can be possible and as smooth as possible. And then I have a little extra for you, Lanyap, is a term they like to use in New Orleans. It means a little bit extra, but I've included this quote from Joseph Pulitzer: "Put it before them briefly so they will read it, clearly so they will appreciate it, picturesquely so they will remember it, and above all, accurately so they will be guided by its light." And that's all I have. Any questions?
Thanks for that, Suzanne. That's just helpful for me to get that very like dense understanding of everything you're doing. And I, for one, have noticed a great improvement in communications and transparency, and just feel that the public has a better conduit to connect with the Board of County Commissioners through the work you're doing. So I think it's wonderful. I've had some outreach from the San Miguel Basin Forum, and they've asked me if I would be interested in writing a column for that publication. I thought I would just put that out there to the group right now. I'm open to it. I do feel that publication crosses county lines into San Miguel County. There are several readers on the west end of San Miguel County, and that's their chosen publication. So I see that as a good opportunity to communicate with that group of constituents.
No, that's fantastic.
And so I'll be in touch with Regan
Have you,
about that.
have you come up with a column name yet?
I haven't yet, but my column is coming up this month, so
Great.
I better come up with a name, huh?
Well, I think Commissioner's Corner is what we call it in the
Right.
Daily Planet.
Oh, so you're referring to the San Miguel Basin Forum?
Do you have a name for
Mhm.
that?
No, not yet. I thought I would put it out to everyone to see if it's something that you all support that I pursue.
Absolutely.
I'll come up with a name.
Now, my question is, could we use your forum column for the Planet when it's your turn?
I mean, that would be efficient.
Yes.
And I would appreciate
I'm
that.
not picturing you writing two. That's a lot of work.
And I certainly plan to cover subjects that are definitely more West End centric, or certainly subjects that maybe my fellow commissioners aren't focusing on. So that we're really, covering all bases. So I think it would be appropriate.
Great. Well, as I
column.
envision the Commissioner Corner column, you each would speak probably more to your district.
Yeah.
Certainly, it doesn't have to be like all county, but you can definitely pick that as your focus. So,
Yeah.
no, I love that. That's wonderful.
All I had, and I appreciate your forward thinking motive of a succession plan. That's always just wise. And because this is a new position, I appreciate that you're wanting to kind of develop that.
It's been interesting to have a job that's created from the ground up. I invent things as I go, and so I should probably write that down.
Lance, anything?
Thanks, Suzanne.
Hi, Lance. I need more cookies.
Okay.
Talk to your daughter.
I had a couple things as well, agreeing. Thank you so much for working on that succession plan. We should have all of our departments doing that, particularly departments of one. Thank you also for stepping into these Wednesday meetings. I do understand the newness of the technology. I think it's a great idea because I think you need to attend the meetings anyway as the communications coordinator. And then since we only have two now in the attorney's office, that gives Nancy another day to do her paralegal work. So that's a big help to the county. Thank you very much. I also want to say that I have noticed since you started, generally, oh my gosh, all of the outreach that we're doing, and I really think it's having an impact, but in particular, the newspaper, it's incredible. I mean, every time I pick up the paper, there's at least one story about what we're doing at the county. And it's just so important that our constituents and everybody knows what we're up to. So thank you so much.
Welcome.
Your effectiveness is just very clear there. I just have one question and then a couple other suggestions. How often are we running an ad? Is it every issue? I feel like I see an ad every newspaper.
Yeah,
Is that
that
our
little
contact?
ad, I believe it's an 8th page.
Yeah,
We get a deal by having something in there every edition.
right.
So yeah, it's literally every edition of the paper plus the Norwood Post.
I love it. I think it's
Yeah.
really good use of funds, and I like that you mix it up. You know, I look at that every time I read the paper, which is pretty much every 3 times a week. So I love that. Thank you for keeping up with that. One thing about that ad, and also this would be about social media, which goes without saying, you're doing an outstanding job on that. Thank you so much. I often share your posts. The one thing I have noticed with Mountain Village and Town of Telluride is that they are in their ads in the paper, they do say what is on the agenda, or at least the top agenda items. And we have been providing that bit.ly link. And I'm wondering, how hard would it be to change that and have just sort of 2 or 3, hey, make sure you know this is what's upcoming on the agenda. I think it's kind of, we need Carmen to help us talk that through, because and she's the one who crafts the agenda and knows when it's final. Carmen, do you want to be part of that conversation? Want to come up to the mic? Do you want to come up to the mic? Or do you want to have that conversation offline? What's your suggestion?
I think that's an offline.
Okay, let's do that.
I
But
will
it's a good-
say, for social media, so Facebook and Instagram, I run, it's one of the very first things I created when I started, but it's meetings this week. And I will put the Board of County Commissioners, the date and time, and sometimes Planning Commission too, if they've got something going on. But in the text of those social media posts, I do write agenda highlights, but I also, are you thinking more in terms of the ad?
I was. Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
understood.
Yeah, let's think about that.
That would require some lead time.
I know, yeah,
Yeah.
so we have to sort that out. It may be, maybe not possible, because those other councils meet much less frequently than we do. So I imagine their
Correct.
agendas are firmed up
Mhm.
more further ahead than ours are. But
Yeah.
let's just the 3 of us talk about that, because I don't know that people necessarily go follow that bit.ly link. And it's just another way of being more transparent if we can announce in the newspaper what's coming up. But
Yeah.
it may not logistically work. Let's think about that. Okay, and then my other question has to do with the newsletter. And
Mhm.
how are we, like, who are we sending that to? How are we building that distribution list? Because I love that piece of media as well.
We, the initial one was pulled off of our website. Current people who use our website get notifications
Okay,
on various things. So that was our core base of emails. Since then, we have a separate way to sign up for the email. So
Okay.
if you don't need emergency notifications or whatever, all the numerous things that you can get notifications for, one of them is now our newsletter. So we push that as well.
That's great. So did I hear you correctly that, like, anybody who had signed up for any notifications for
Yes.
any topic, we pulled all those
Yes.
emails and used them for the newsletter? That's fantastic.
Mhm,
Great.
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and of course, we can grow that.
That's great.
Yeah.
I would just mention, maybe if this makes sense, you had said that you are always kind of reinforcing the suggestion that people sign up for Notify Me.
Mhm.
And I can't remember the language you use on that, but maybe just say including our newsletter or something like that, so people know that it could be more general as well as specific.
Yeah,
If
and
that makes sense.
I try to mix it up. You know, sometimes it's media notifications.
Yeah,
You know, as we get into we stay this dry, it's going to be emergency notifications.
yeah.
So, and of course, we have a number of job openings, and I remind people,
Yes.
this is where you can find out where to get a cool job. So I mix it up, but yeah.
Good, great. Good. And then for our email list and the Notify Me, we have had some requests, or I've seen a few requests from Down Valley residents to have better communication of what's on our agendas and so forth, because, you know, we've talked about a couple things that were Down Valley related that they missed. And I looked at that Notify Me page, and regarding the Down Valley geography, we have an opportunity to sign up for updates on the Down Valley Connector Trail. I'm wondering if it might make sense to convert that, make it more broad, and just have it updates related to Down Valley. So that we could start to build that email list. And in fact, a couple members of the public let me, and I think Mike, know that they are starting to build an email list of their community. So we could tap into that as the
Great.
place to build that. So does anyone have any thoughts about broadening that section? I see.
I support that.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's really easy to do. I would probably first talk to Janet because I know that she wanted that connector trail
Sure.
info out there and but yeah, that's very easy to make happen.
Would you check in with her and see if she's okay
Absolutely.
with that? And obviously we would still include
Yeah.
updates on the Down Valley Connector
Mhm.
Trail, but it would also allow us to provide information about other Down Valley
Right.
meetings and, you know, surveys and
Yeah.
survey results, things like that. I think that might be appreciated.
No, that's easy. Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I just, you know, this is a little bit in my wheelhouse because I worked in market research for so long. And I just have felt so much progress over the last year or so. I'm really, really pleased and grateful.
It just took someone with a pulse.
It took us getting the right person.
Yeah, someone who was willing to, I mean, you developed the position, you were really pushed yourself and were willing to grow. And yeah, I just can't say enough. I'm really grateful.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been fun.
Good. All right. Thank you so much, Suzanne. How are we doing? Oh, sorry. We had a member of the public who wanted to speak, Suzanne, and you may need to want to respond. Mr. Tooley, do you have something to share with us regarding our communications, community communications?
I do. Doug Tooley here. Codo is certainly an option for getting things out. I'm sure you're all familiar with the G is for government. The segment that they do with Geneva Jeanette prior to the council meeting.
You know what? It's hard to hear you. Are you rustling around somewhere? Maybe, or the wind? You're really.
I'm in the wind, and I've turned away from it now. Is that any better?
You put your hand around the microphone or something to protect it from the wind.
Yeah, it's behind my body. Can you hear me okay at all?
Not working.
Mr. Tooley.
I guess that's it.
Okay, thank you so much. And if Suzanne?
Mr. Tooley, I'm sorry, I can't understand you at all, but please feel free to email me, Suzanne C, sanmiguelcountyco.gov. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
And the part that I did hear was his reference to the town of Telluride G is for government, where they preview what's upcoming on their meeting agendas the day before on Codo. And I wonder if he was making a suggestion that we do something similar.
That's what I was interpreting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was going to speak to this under manager matters, but with Commissioner Brown and Carmen's assistance, we've revised our upcoming meetings page so that it's not just the work sessions, but it also has some of the higher interest items that will be upcoming on regular meeting agendas too. So that should aid our community members in knowing about things that might be of interest to them further in advance. But and I don't want to speak for Mr. Tooley, but I wonder if that's what he was going to be suggesting.
So maybe our the accessibility of that planning document on our agendas page would suffice for people who are interested, although I understand that would require them to go to our webpage as opposed to us speaking out in public. Again, my concern would be that we have weekly meetings and well, let's talk about that.
And I do see his raised his hand again. I don't know if he's in a better spot.
And I do think that county lines can kind of serve as that. If Jared and I have a good understanding of what's in the future, we can definitely touch on that. And I think that would be helpful.
I like that rather than having another piece that we are managing. And Suzanne, well, you can probably find it, but you can find that document on our agenda page. It says upcoming BOCC meetings. And it's very fluid. Just want to make that point because it's a planning document. So as we put things on the agenda, sometimes schedules change or all that kind of thing. So it's not set in stone really until we publish the agenda. But it gives people a sense of what's coming up. Okay, great. Thank you. Oh, Mr. Tooley, why don't you try again if you're in a better spot?
I am out in the wind. Hopefully the connection is good enough.
A little better.
Okie doke. I think Mike got across the point about doing something on Kodo. That can be done in a number of ways. Going to the question of getting younger people involved, I had some experience with this up at Village Court, where they initiated a residence council that has had some substantive issues, which don't need to go into now, but a couple of things. For people who are working in service industries, 5:30 is not a good time. However, for somebody employed as such, they will typically be off on Mondays or Tuesdays. The more senior staff will have those slower days off, and would be called upon to work in the busier times. There is, meeting closer to the Shandoka neighborhood would be a plus. But there's in the space, the school would be a possibility. And, I don't know how, if you could figure out a time that would also bring in parents, make it easy for parents, that could be good as well. If you do so, you're going to miss the people that work the 9 to 5s, but maybe do 3:30, 4 o'clock at the school on a Monday or Tuesday, and then 5:30 at some other time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are just 2 minutes late now, which is fine, for item 6C, which is discussion identifying federal funding provided to the county. And we have all sorts of power here. We have Ramona, we have Jared, and we have Mike. And Paige. Hi, Paige, presenting this information to us. So who would like to start?
I would like Ramona to go through the document that she and Paige created. And this was at the request of the commissioners to help us identify how much potential exposure we may have should the federal government change policies now or in the future related to federal funding that the county receives. And so Ramona and her team have created a clear spreadsheet, and though we think it is very unlikely that we would be exposed to this level of loss of funding from the federal government, I wanted to give her and her team and Jared the opportunity to just walk the board through the various pots of funding that we receive, either federal pass through to the state to us or directly to us. Obviously, we all know about things like PILT, and we know about our human services funding, but there's a lengthy list here that I would like to turn it over to Ramona to describe.
Good morning, commissioners. And Mike, can you share your screen since you have it? Or Jared, one of you share your screen, please?
Okay, I will.
They're working on it, Ramona.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So just this request came from you, of course, the commissioners, and just a few points that I want to disclose as I was preparing this. One, it's very, very high level, right? And it is the assuming the worst case scenario, which we're hoping that doesn't happen. But in order to put this together, instead of making a lot of assumptions, we just went at the high level. I went through the high level overview. And the other thing is you're dealing with 3 fiscal calendars, right? You're dealing with San Miguel County's fiscal calendar. You're dealing with the state's fiscal calendar as far as federal dollars being passed through the state. And then you are dealing with the federal fiscal calendar as well. So that is a little challenging because when you say, well, what was going to be the impact? My brain goes to, well, when are we talking? Are we talking immediately? Or are we talking 6 months from now? Are we talking a year from now? So that was another point that I wanted to mention. So this is basically based on worst case scenario and San Miguel County's fiscal year. Okay, for fiscal year 2025 is how this was kind of put together. So as we'll go through it.
Sorry,
Yes.
just for clarification, can you tell us what the different fiscal calendars are? I know the state ends mid-year. Can you just?
Sure. So San Miguel County is January through December. State of Colorado is July 1 through June 30. And the federal fiscal year is October 1 through September 30.
Thank you.
So the first item on here that Mike mentioned was PILT. So we did receive our PILT payment in 2024. That goes to our general operations, and assuming full funding or the full appropriation or authorization has been done, if they were to rescind that, since we have not received our payment yet in 2025, that is a payment from last year was about $1.4 million. This payment is historically received in June, but I know that they go through the authorization process early in their federal fiscal year, and then it takes that long to get it processed. So I don't have updated information on authorization of PILT, if that was even done in their when their fiscal year started in October. Maybe Mike or Jared have that, but that is a pending payment from the feds directly that we would typically receive mid-year, and it does fund general operations. Go ahead.
But I think it might make sense if you guys agree to actually talk about each line as we go through, just briefly, but because I noticed that Jared was making a nod of some sort when you asked about whether the authorization had been made earlier in this year for 2025. Jared, did you have something to offer?
Well, PILT tends to be something that is one of those legislative prerogatives that is a sweetener in a lot of deals when big bills are passed. I fully expect that when the Congress starts talking about things like the Farm Bill or other such actions, they tend to throw PILT on that kind of bill to help get enough votes to pass it. I have not heard about full PILT funding for the year yet.
You haven't heard either way.
Right. It's been something that we've been fortunate for a number of years that we've been getting a significant amount of PILT funding on an annual basis. This is not historically in the 80s and 90s. They used to fund it at 50 or 60% of what counties were due. Since, and I think Mike mentioned this at the last meeting, since Senator Salazar at the time kind of went to office, he turned up those appropriations, or worked to turn those up pretty significantly. And they've been relatively consistent year over year. But we haven't seen the posture of the current administration to the PILT payment, nor the current Congress, which is necessary to make those authorizations. So I fully expect that this particular line will be a topic of conversation whenever they really need to pass some legislation. So
prior to 2000, we've received it annually since 2008, but prior to 2008, it was not. And it has been allocated only annually. It has not been authorized for a multi-year. But prior to that, Jared's his notes are correct that it was rarely at full funding. And I do anticipate, because this is predominantly something that is in the West, there are not the same percentage of public lands in the central or east coast of the United States. So this is something that we will be obviously in touch with our federal legislators, and we'll be speaking with our reps for Senator Bennett and Senator Hickenlooper next week at our commissioner meeting, and obviously something where they already know how we feel about it. Colorado is unanimous, so are the Western states. in pushing for PILT, but I do anticipate this could be one of the areas that we see reductions of in the future.
Thank you. And we should have mentioned that PILT stands for payment in lieu of taxes. Does somebody want to provide one more sentence on that?
Correct. Payment in lieu of taxes this is the federal government's program to compensate counties for their federal ownership within our boundaries. So they have a pretty significant calculation where they look at the acreage that they have within each county and calculate a value that we as counties kind of forego from private value
For property taxes.
for those
Yes.
property taxing purposes. It wouldn't equate 1-to-1, right? If all of our land was private instead of public. But it is a kind of a nod to be a good landowner, steward, and partner for the federal government and recognizing that ownership.
Well, there's also a reality that we're providing services. The sheriff's office does our wildfire and other search and rescue. There's a lot of costs that are incurred on our public lands. And this is a means to help counties deal with those costs. But it's not in relation to what costs incurred.
Just as an aside, I recently last night signed a petition that was offered by the Mountain Pact for elected officials to support funding of public lands. So I shared that with other commissioners, and please share that with others, former and current elected officials, because I think hopefully that will have a little bit of persuasion in Washington. Okay, anything else on PILT? All right.
And I apologize, when I increase the size of the screen, or decrease it to see the entire page, it becomes really difficult to read. So I'm gonna keep it this large and I'll just shift as we go through it. So next up is human services funding. And Ramona?
Sure. So thank you for those additional comments on the PILT. So human services, when we put together the 2025 budget, we were anticipating receiving $1.9 million for the programs that are offered by human services, and that was federal and state funding. And this 1.5 million that you'll see 2 columns to the left is essentially the 80%, because we transact all social services, human services expenditures, and we recoup 80% from either the state or feds. The challenge with this one is we don't really know which programs come and what percentages come from the feds through the state. We know that SNAP is a big one that is paid directly from the feds, and that's the largest bucket of this money. Also, child care and child welfare is a big part of that, and the budget detail for 2025 breaks that $1.9 million down. So this was just kind of summarizing it. I did speak to Linnea. She said county admin is a big portion of her budget, and all of her staff is paid out of that bucket except one staff person, which is a case manager. So that when I was thinking about this, where are these expenditures being spent? This is a big one because there's a lot of staff associated with this particular funding. And right now, the current fund balance is less than $100,000, and we've spoke in the budget process of why that is what it is. But should we see a reduction in revenues coming from the feds or directly or passed through from the state, this is definitely a fund that could be substantially impacted that doesn't have operating reserves built up. The next one, or does it may have any questions on that one?
If I could, commissioners, I would note, and Mike, Ramona, and I had noted this when we were discussing this, those 2 programs are the lion's share.
And those again are
PILT and human services. If you look at the grand totals of those 2, they are the lion's share of, not to say that it's everything, but those are the biggest programs that are kind of in limbo in some respects as we move ahead. The others, for a couple different reasons, we have various contracts for service for some of these other items. Which again, if we got into the situation where the federal government stops, cancels their contract and we have subcontracts with other agencies, we'd be talking about, well, do we sue the federal government? How do we deal with these? But these two programs, particularly PILT, it's really something that the feds have a lot of discretion on. Human Services has a lot of different pieces and parts, as Ramona mentioned. Some have contracts, some are passed through, so on and so forth. So every one of these projects or every one of these funding streams has some very nuanced details, which makes it kind of difficult to say these are guaranteed off the table or these are, pretty firm commitments of the federal government. So I just wanted to call attention to that and that those two programs particularly are the biggest of the bunch. So.
Thank you. And actually, along the lines of human services, Ramona, we've been talking with Linnea about the CCAP program and how we anticipate less, unfortunately, at this point, reimbursements from the state for that. The 1.9 that we budgeted originally in human services, do we need to, I guess we'll just have to keep an eye on that, right? Once we figure out what the state is actually going to provide.
That would be my recommendation because of the variable of TANF, when they close the fiscal year, and I know she's had conversations about the TANF funding, that usually comes in, to make that fund whole or see where actually they fell a little bit short, but that fiscal year will end on June 30th. So it is kind of hard to see where we're going to be moving forward at this point, because in a sense, they're kind of wrapping up their fiscal year when we're just kind of getting ours started. So I would recommend that we just kind of wait, but we need to be very cognizant that that is something definitely on the radar to watch.
Thank you.
And funding through the state is predominantly federal pass through to the state. So yes, something we should be worried, or not worried, but
watching. Okay. Thank you.
Next are some of the large federal grants that we have either in process, we're wrapping up, or are upcoming, but these are the amounts that are still outstanding. So you can see the TAP for this is the extension of the path to the Lawson Intercept lot.
Sorry, we're talking about EMPG.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was jumping down to the big buckets.
Okay.
EMPG, go ahead.
So EMPG, that is the funding that pays for our emergency managers' staffing time and some incidental costs. So it's a 50-50 match. We've encumbered all of the costs for 2024. We're waiting on those reimbursements. This is federal funding that comes through the state. We have not seen the 25 contract finalized, I don't believe yet. So I don't know what's going to happen with that one, but that one is that funds for Shannon's position. So that one is heavily tied to staffing, the EMPG, but the funding is 59,000 on that one that we receive from the feds.
Thank you.
Any questions on that?
I guess just that we would expect that contract sometime before the end of June, given the state's fiscal year. Is that correct?
It should be coming. They kind of switched that contract to a calendar basis, and so I would expect that we should be receiving it. We always get the money late, but they don't wait until their new fiscal year to do that paperwork. But it is typically first quarter, end of first quarter, first part of second quarter. Yes.
And have you heard any rumors that might be at risk?
I have not heard anything on that one.
Thank you. Composting?
Composting grant is one that expires in May of 2025. I spoke with Jared this week. We're trying to get things wrapped up. He can give you a little bit more detail. I don't know if the full 160 is going to be encumbered through this grant. Just depends on the work that's being done and our partners. So should we finish the project and they decide not to fund or whatever, that would be 160,000. But this one, as Jared mentioned, is we're under contract with it, so that would be questionable if they decided to rescind that funding at this point. Jared, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, this as Ramona aptly put it, is kind of one of those nuanced items. There, we have partners out in the community who are working under this contract or under a subcontract with us for their various pieces of this compost effort. And they're working really hard. They're getting ready for compost week. They're doing education at our local schools, other things in regard to compost. What we hope doesn't happen is we pay those bills, and then when we send back to the feds for reimbursement, they say, sorry, we're just kind of canceling your contract. Right now we are proceeding as business as usual. We have requested that all of our partners on these projects get us as up-to-date information as possible so we can process reimbursement as soon as possible. That way we just aren't extending our exposure for needlessly in a lot of ways. So,
And I mean, I've, listened to the news and hear about all these, budgets that are being paused and, employees who are being told they're going to be fired. In regards to federal contracts, have we seen yet that the federal government is breaking those?
We have not seen anybody breaking them, but we have heard of pauses, right? No, I don't know of anybody getting letters saying we're rescinding a contract or anything, but there have been notable areas where they've said they aren't reimbursing, they aren't moving ahead with projects. Again, we have not seen any of that ourselves yet, which is fortunate, and we hope not to. With this USDA composting grant, we did get notification that the federal grants portal is going to be shut off for a week and turned back on. And so, again, we're just kind of going to play by the whatever gets pitched our way. So,
And that portal is where we submit for reimbursement?
correct.
Software upgrade.
Software upgrade.
Interesting.
Huh?
Okay,
Thanks for that. That was helpful.
yeah. Okay, should we go on to CDOT, the TAP grant?
And I may as well take this one as well, because that CDOT TAP grant is the resources we got. Again, this is state pass-through money from the feds, transportation accessibility program or transportation alternatives program. That's it. That comes from the feds to CDOT, from CDOT to local governments and local agencies. We are using these dollars to design and hopefully construct the small spur of trail, a 10-foot wide trail from our intercept lot to the existing alignment next to the highway at Lawson Hill. I had a meeting with CDOT this week. They have requested again that we make reimbursement requests wherever possible, so we aren't extending ourselves. But they were pretty certain in my conversations with them that this funding is relatively secure. It would be a big change for these dollars to dissipate from the federal government. So.
Okay,
And that's just an annual, just applying annually for this one.
Correct.
Even if there aren't projects underway, like the Lawson project, for instance.
Correct. There's and I know that we talked briefly about it last week, I believe, Commissioner Gleason, and if there are other opportunities to get this on the list, or get another project on the list, they have open windows and conversations. It's something we should talk about, getting any other ideas out there for, trails and other things onto, I think Commissioner Waring and Mr. Bordonia are headed to a GVTPR meeting to talk about various projects that are going to be on the list for the next few years. So we would want to talk about any other kind of opportunities we want to seek and get them plugged in again, with federal funding, we'll see how it goes, but we should definitely be getting in line regardless. So,
Great. Can we add that to a work session real soon?
yeah.
Cool.
And it may be worthwhile just to kind of have a one-off meeting, if we can one-on-one and talk about what ideas you got, and we can do a little research to make sure we move in the right direction.
Excellent.
Next up, the EPA Brownfields grant is related to the Matterhorn Mill stabilization. And that planning work has started. You can see we have some drawdown from our $500,000 grant already, but the bulk of the work is poised to take place next year.
And that's the Matterhorn Mill, which, are we able to work on that even though we haven't acquired it? Are we doing that anyway?
I believe in this case, and Janet has included me in some of these conversations. We do work on the mill currently, and this grant is not only for the Matterhorn Mill, but for other brownfield sites. And I believe the evaluation that was done in the last year that we have the drawdown for was really evaluating opportunities at our various brownfield sites, which do include the Matterhorn Mill among other mining sites. And really our work in the next, because that one was a 5-year grant program. The work is to identify those opportunities, look for other funding opportunities to maximize our ability to mitigate brownfields in meaningful ways. So,
Thank you.
And yes, I'll just reiterate that is mainly that money that has been on the assessment. And Janet is monitoring that, and we're billing that one as timely as we can as well. And the billings have been submitted for expenses through 12/31/24. The next one, I'm sorry.
Nope, that was a thank you.
Okay, the next one I say I have a typo, I apologize. That should be a C dot, not CDPT. I don't know where that came from. That's the Applebop Bridge. This one, that 273,000 looks like a lot of money, but we're just in the work has been completed on that, as you all know. We were waiting for the final retainage to be released, and that's going to be in process very soon. Once that is done, then we can work with the state to close this project. And then we're going to be looking at see if we can get some construction management costs covered with remaining funding, but we need to wait till the final retainage is received from Wadsworth so we can see how much money we have left to close out. So that's what's on the table at CDOT's office, but I anticipate that we should be getting that soon. On that one contractually is in place. We just need to finish it up.
What's a retainage?
That's the typical portion of project total money, and Ryan is gonna explain it too, that we hold back to ensure full completion of the project in case a contractor chooses to walk away at any point. We're only paying as project milestones, and then there's a final portion that just for all the CDOT and federal assurances that need to be completed post-construction.
Okay.
Once the contractor has completed that, then we release the retainage. Ryan, were you gonna add anything to that?
Yeah, I was just gonna add the amount. There's $30,877.71 left for the final retainage. That's the final last check. Everything should be submitted to CDOT now. Bridget said that she's starting the review process. She says that we can pay it. She said, but they typically don't pay it until after they finish the review process of the paperwork. So that's where we're at right now. But we've already posted the notice of final payment. That's already done the 10 days in the paper. So as soon as we hear back, we can release that last amount and then get it back to them.
And yet we still need to recover 273,000 from our grant.
We're going to see if we can assess some of the other incurred costs for
Okay.
project management.
Okay.
To the remaining grant funds. And then Ramona, could you speak to the Homeland Security grants, both 2021 through 2024? I know this was one of the questions I had when I first saw this spreadsheet of why we still had some funds outstanding from our 2021 grant and those priors?
Sure. So the Homeland Security grants are usually a 3-year grant contract term. So in 2021, that would have gone through to 22, 23, 24, depending on the projects that were funded and approved during that. That one had got an extension from the state somewhere between 2021 and now. That is slated to close in May of this year. And all of that remaining $91,333 has been encumbered through purchase orders. We just haven't paid those yet. So those projects for the 2021 grant are wrapping up. That grant is slated to close in May. So that one, I feel like we should be getting that and wrapping that up within the next 2 or 3 months. The next one, the 2022 grant, it is slated to close in August. That was one that, again, had a 3-year term on it. And this particular grant is what is paying our current grant administrator for these, administers these grants through the sheriff's office. And her time is essentially built into this grant. She did tell me that there's $15,000 left in this particular grant to pay her her wages through August. So that is kind of earmarked in that 114,000. Also some specific projects that have been approved. POs are not actually issued on this one yet, but those are in process. They've identified the projects. It's just a matter of getting those done. Now, these Homeland Security grants are ones through the Southwest region. They fund projects in our neighboring counties and in this regional area. So we're the pass-through agency on these. We're the fiscal agent for these grants. We do get some benefit from these grants as far as equipment and the staff time, but a lot of these projects are in Montrose County, Uray County, just wherever the requests are coming in. The 2023 and 2024 grants, those have been awarded to us. No expenditures have been made on those. So the 2023 grant was for $135,000. That's the amount remaining. And 2024, $210,000 was awarded, and that's remaining because those projects have not started yet. That 2023 grant ends in 26 and the 24 grant ends in 27. Again, you'll see a consistent 3-year timeline on that. When I spoke to Jill Hart, who was the grants administrator for these, she really is hoping that we can get the 21, 22 grants completed because they are projects underway. She said the state has come down with recommendations that we start billing on these active grants monthly, and we've historically been billing on a quarterly basis. So we shifted our frequency in January, and we started billing any applicable expenses out on a monthly basis, and that was direction she received from the state on these particular ones. Now, the 2025 grant application that is in process, that one we don't know if it's going to be even processed or awarded, but that one is project specific. So if it doesn't happen, those projects just don't get, of course, funded. So that's, Mike and Jared, do you want to add anything to the Homeland Security stuff? But that's kind of in a nutshell. It's very project driven with minor staff implications in those.
What kind of projects are those?
Oh, goodness. They've
Or
raised,
okay, sorry.
no, like gosh, security systems. I think, for example, the Norwood Water Treatment received a portion of one of the grants to put in security cameras at the not water treatment, the water tank site. So there were surveillance cameras put there. So that was for security. They've put some work with our locking systems at the jail. We've done some security work with the new Norwood Annex. There was some cost sharing with that. So I'm trying to think. They did some stuff at the Delta County Fairgrounds for security. So it all has to be eligible through Homeland Security eligibility criteria, but the different partners submit the requests through the application process, and then the committee makes the recommendations, and that's where the projects lie. I could get you more information. I just can't remember right off the top of my head
That's
what
fine.
all those are. If you want that, I'd be happy to get that for you.
No, that's, I just wanted to know conceptually what it was for. The only other question is, do we have any security projects that are in the San Miguel County that are in limbo that, might be jeopardized? I understand the numbers you're giving us here are for the whole Southwest region, correct?
That is correct.
So do we know approximately what part of that might be San Miguel County, like any projects we have that we might be at risk?
I will have to get back to you on that. I don't have that right offhand.
Is that something we want? Or is that busy work?
I don't think we need to
Yeah,
get
that
those
detail.
smaller details.
Yeah, I think so.
And it seems like this is either going to happen or it isn't. So
Yeah, I think there's nothing we can really
do.
It's so convoluted and it's changing. That's right. Like
Totally. I think it's important for us to know what's at risk so that we can consider what we might have to. But I think what I'm hearing about these particular grants is they are so project specific. And I think if there was something that was significant to the work that we're doing this year, we already would know. So I think you don't need to do any further research on this for us.
And one of the things I just wanted to assure the board of is in our subcontracts with the respective counties for their projects, it does say, if we have signed an agreement with, let's say, Gunnison County for equipment, if we are rejected on the funding, we would then notify them that they would not be getting that. It doesn't put us on the hook to deliver it, even if our funding is cut off.
being a true pass-through agent,
Correct.
that's how that works. And just a quick question on that, how long have we been in that position as the pass-through agent, just historic reference?
I think the first one we took was 2018.
Okay.
That we have, that we started becoming fiscal agent with the 2018 grant, I believe, or 17 or 18.
Okay. You know what? We have the sheriff here and I imagine he is here for the manager matters item where we're going to discuss vacancy and appointment process. Just to give him a sense of this discussion, I don't want to cut it short or rush it, but how many more lines? Oh, we're at the end. Okay.
The bottom.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, there's the total. Okay. All right. You're doing great, Ramon. I really appreciate this. Let's keep going.
okay, very quickly. So the next one is the state of Colorado, the cost allocation indirect backfill. This is a requirement that we have every year. We have to do a cost allocation plan. And what that plan does is allows us to request from the state the indirect costs associated with operating the Human Services Department. Now, what I don't know, and I disclosed there that I don't know how this indirect backfill would be handled because of the state and federal component of all of that. What I can tell you is we received 67,000 in 2024. We've budgeted to receive 50,000 in 2025, but it'll all depend on how the plan, once the plan is completed, what those numbers look like, and then the process in which the funding is released. So that one's kind of a wild card as far as will it happen or how much, because we don't have those numbers just yet.
Great. And that's federal money that comes through the state. Is that right?
That's Mike, can you help me on that? I don't have that answer because it is for the indirect costs.
I believe so, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So the next two lines, we've addressed these in different meetings with the board. The first one is the Title I money with the Secure Rural Schools. And the next one is the Title III money that we're working on as a pass-through for Title III. So these are federal dollars. They are immaterial when it comes to looking at this big total. I know they are important for the purposes that they serve, but they're kind of a minimal impact if those were to not be received. They do get passed on, the Title I money gets passed on to the school districts, and the Title III money gets passed on to West Region Wildfire Council at this point. The last one is the WIC funding. That is federal money that is passed through the state again. That is based on the October through September fiscal year. And this funding partially funds the WIC coordinator position that is currently a Uray County employee. So that's the majority of what the WIC funding does, is pay for that staffing time. So as you'll see, the total is 5.2 million. As Jared mentioned, PILT and Human Services is the lion's share of this impact. So Again, it's a 30,000-foot view. It's hard to say what, without further directives from the state or from the feds, if we will, in fact, not get these monies or if we will. So I'm going on business as usual until I hear directions otherwise, and we're in constant contact with Mike and Jared if they hear anything, you guys as well. But we're going to continue to incur and bill these transactions unless we're directed otherwise.
Great. And just to put that into perspective, it's $5.277 million of our budget, which is 38 this year. Is that right? 2025? 38 million?
I'm not, yeah. I have too many
Yes.
numbers in my brain, so
Yep.
yes, it's over 30. It's over 30.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That was really useful to me. Does anybody have any further questions or comments for Ramona and Paige?
No, just thanks for your work on compiling that. I found it really useful as well, and I appreciate the proactive approach here rather than having to react to potential impacts. So thanks for organizing this.
I will say that I'm really glad to have this number in my mind. And while obviously we hope all of this funding comes through as we had budgeted for, it's not hugely concerning in terms of our ability to continue providing services to the county, particularly since many of these items are contract, not that we want to pull back on any of the work we're doing, but it's really in some ways disturbing and in some ways reassuring. So it's always good to have the information. Thank you, Ramona.
You're
Okay.
welcome. Good day.
So it is 11 o'clock. Our next item is manager matters, but I'm going to suggest that we take a quick break. And it's 11:00, what is it, on 7? Why don't we come back at 11:15 and then we will move to get into that. Does that sound good? All right, we are going to take a break here. Thank you.
And I was for this one too. I thought that was really interesting.
Oh, good. Okay.
I think that was.
Well, I think it is actually important because as we know, there's always the risk of federal funding being reduced depending on how our law enforcement behaves, right? 1 second, please. All right. Hello, San Miguel County. It is 11:15 and we are back from our brief break. Moving on into manager matters. Item A is discussion of the sheriff's vacancy and appointment process. Mike Bordonia and Jared Biggs are on the agenda for that. And we are fortunate to have Sheriff Bill Masters in the room as well. He is coming up to a microphone.
Good afternoon, or good morning, commissioners. It just feels like everything. I'm sharing my screen now, and this is just a brief reminder for you and members of the public about how, who appoints an elected official position when it becomes vacant. And this is from the Colorado Legislative Council. And it just clarifies what I think you all know already, which is that the Board of County Commissioners makes those appointments to fill vacancies for all county offices other than for boards of commissioner vacancies. And certainly we've had Board of Commissioner vacancy when Commissioner Cooper stepped away. We've had an appointments for our treasurer, our assessor, and our clerk. So kind of more than this is fairly recent in all of our memories. And so in the past, with those other 3 elected official vacancies, I'm not going to speak to the Board of Commissioner one because that involves a vacancy committee of the electing party from which that candidate ran. But this is in the past for the treasurer, assessor, and clerk, the board chose to solicit for the position both internally and externally. I would love for the sheriff to share his thoughts with you. But I also wanted to just remind you of the fact that that's how you've handled the previous 3. And then the sheriff has indicated he will be stepping away from his role in early June. I just put June 1st. That is not a hard date, so I'll let him speak to that. And I was just speaking to him before this matter while we were in recess about some of his thoughts on how that transition might look. And I think they're good ones that he has. So I'd love for him to share those with you. So I'm not going to continue to share my screen so that we can all see each other. But this is something at the board's responsibilities and of your discretion. And we can talk about a timeline after the sheriff shares his thoughts with you, if that's okay.
Perfect.
Okay. And I know you all probably are going to say this, but I'd like to be the first to say thank you for your immense amount of public service to San Miguel County and the state of Colorado, Sheriff Masters. And I know I've certainly learned a lot from you, and it's been a pleasure working with you in your office. And I think our citizens have been very lucky to have you in the role that you have through lots of different really trying situations that this county's endured. And I feel like your steady leadership and clear guidance of the ethics, the morals that your office carries forward has really permeated. And so thank you.
Thank you, Mike, for those comments.
Can we all make a little
My
comment
pleasure.
too?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. That was perfect. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought you were going to get down to business, and might have some others who'd like to comment. Yeah, Bill, when you called me to let me know that you were stepping down, retiring, obviously I was thrilled for you. You deserve it. But I did get a little emotional, and I just have to say, I feel so honored to have been a commissioner while you were sheriff. You are a historic figure in Colorado and perhaps the country. And it's been just a huge pleasure to get to know you as a colleague and as a friend during these past couple of years. And I also very much appreciate the approach that you take in providing peacekeeping services to our county. You are really human in your approach, and you set a really I think, appropriate tone for this community in terms of, we are individuals with responsibility, and yet we're not going to take any trouble. So you've walked that line so elegantly, and really it is important, the sheriff's approach in terms of setting the tone at the county level. And I just really appreciate the way you've done that. And again, just been an honor to serve with you. And we have, as some people have said on Facebook, big boots to fill, but we'll do our very best. Thank you.
I'm sure you will.
Carolina?
Well, I mean, I just echo everything that has been said, and I moved here in the mid-90s as a teenager, and I've always just felt this sense of security, safety, and like liberty, knowing that you are sheriff, and those are big boots to fill. And I just think that we've been incredibly fortunate, and it's a little hard to imagine moving forward with you not as our sheriff, but I think that the example and precedent that you have set is going to help us make a decision in appointing your successor. Thanks.
Thank you. I think so too.
Bill, I've never lived in San Miguel County without you being sheriff. Not sure how it's going to go. It will be
Couple of
different.
generations of that, I think,
Yeah. Much respect for you and your office, and like you said, big boots to fill.
Well, thank you. I spoke to all of you privately about my resignation, some of my thoughts about the office, and so I know you have a big burden to figure out who my replacement's going to be. But I'm sure you'll be able to do that with a thoughtful manner. I would like that to occur as soon as possible, so that I would have a lengthy time of training and guiding that new person who knows that they're going to be the sheriff, and that would be a good way to change administrations. I think if I could have 3 months with that person before I leave in June. And so if you could move along, that would be great. And that would help the office.
And just noting that this is a work session, this was just meant to remind the public of and the board of the process. Next week at a regular meeting, we can work on a timeline. Just to clarify what I heard the sheriff say is that he's hoping that the board will create a process that will act relatively quickly so that you can name the successor but not appoint them until his retirement date in early June. So that they would have that overlap time while he is still a sheriff to train them.
And if I do the math right, if you'd like to wrap up early June and you'd like 3 months with this person, we're really, our goal would be to have somebody named by March 1st, which is pretty quick.
Well, and I'm sorry to put that pressure on you. You know, I just I don't think it's going to be terribly difficult for you. I wouldn't look for a nationwide search or something along those lines. I think it's a political decision, and it's a political office, and you need to, I would suggest, look at the candidates within the office primarily, and locals as well, and not, not make this a big nationwide search for the best peace officer to be the sheriff of San Miguel County. I think it's too unique a position to do that. Somebody's really going to have to understand the nuances of our community. And so that person's should be relatively close.
And statute does dictate that they must have been in San Miguel County resident for at least 12 months prior to them being seated as the sheriff. So that does clarify that it would be a local applicant.
Are there any other statute guidelines that we should talk about or can talk about at this time, or would we do that at another meeting?
I think we can clarify and have the board vote to approve a process. And we can, yeah, I'd love to hear any questions you have so that we could come next week with more details. But Jared?
I was gonna say, in preparation for the meeting, I did do just kind of a cursory review statutes where things are at. You know, the qualifications, as Mike mentioned, you have to be a citizen of the United States, citizen of Colorado, and a resident of the county in which you would be sheriff. That precludes anybody who has not been living here from really applying for that job. It may also preclude some officers that we have in the department who do not live in San Miguel County from applying for the job. So just a few things to consider as we're moving ahead. Additionally, you have to have a high school diploma or equal or a college degree. You have to have a criminal background check. And then within a certain amount of time after taking office, you have to be able to attain post certification. So those are the lists of qualifications for sheriff that are statutorily outlined.
Great. And are there any statutory requirements in terms of the process that we go through? Or is that our?
Other than appointing, that's the statutes don't provide any direction in terms of how you go about doing that, like
Okay.
soliciting applicants or interested parties.
Okay.
What are the requirements as far as having served in law enforcement?
There are none.
There are none.
There are none. And I think that actually prior to 1994, and Bill may know this better than I do, there were some requirements, but that was when 1994 and 1996 were in the post requirements, the Peace Officers Standard Training Board. Those requirements became germane, at least to that office. So again, somebody who is not experienced but can attain their post certification could be qualified. And it's kind of a question of, would you as a board want to appoint somebody who was really fresh, or through a process that you select, do you get some really great candidates that have a lot of experience anyway? Right.
And what is post certification? Bill?
Well, nowadays that's 16 to 20 weeks, I believe. I may be wrong. When I went to post, it was 4 weeks, but that was a long time ago. And you started your first year before your training. For some odd reason, you were put on the street first to see if you survived, and then you went to your training. And so it was kind of an odd system in those days, but they changed that. So if you appointed somebody who was not post certified, you'd have to send them to the academy. And of course, that's a full-time job in itself. And then you have to pass the post test. There's a lot of pitfalls with that. And I would say you don't want to consider someone who has never been a peace officer and who's never been to post. I mean, that's just too problematic for the office to do that. Yeah, and there's other things that's kind of obvious that you would look for someone. I think a college degree in a related field would be important. If you have someone like that, that's a plus. Experience in leadership is a plus, and that could come from a variety of different sources. But a person who hasn't had an extensive period of time and learning the business is everybody's going to go to that person for advice, and so they should know somewhat of what's going on. I don't think they need to know all about the sheriff's office. I mean, I know very little about the situation, the laws and the procedures that have to be followed every single day in the jail. But I hire people to do that. Same thing with the 911 center. I've never worked in a 911 center, but I hire people that have and that understand what the process is, as any manager would. But someone who understands the basics of peacekeeping and is educated and has proven record of being able to lead people, armed men and women in difficult circumstances, would be someone to consider. If you have none of that, you're probably not going to succeed very well.
When we appoint this person, they will fill the remainder of Bill's term, which I understand goes through 2026. Is that right?
In November of 2026, there will be an election.
Okay.
For the next 4 years.
4 years. So this person that we're appointing would serve for 4 years and then obviously, a year and a half. Sorry, a year and a half, and then potentially choose to run in the election in November of 2026.
And that's been a consideration with previous appointments that the board has made, and part of the interview process is the candidate's desire to continue to run. We've had some candidates that have said, I would love to fill the vacancy, but I would not intend to run. And I think that's a decision point. Do you want a situation where you have somebody that is hoping to be the longer term leader? Obviously, it's up to the voters whether or not they are affirmed if they do run. But I know that that's weighed into the board's consideration in the past when folks have said, I do not want to consider running for office in the future.
Interesting.
And it's kind of funny, the statutes clarify the roles and responsibilities of the sheriff. So when we put out a potential job description, I know we've already started looking at that that JD of the undersheriff, because that enumerates a lot of the sheriff's responsibilities, and obviously we'll then go through and revise that to be include everything that the statute requires for the responsibilities of the sheriff. But that's just my way of saying we're already starting to get together a position for the board's direction that we could post publicly.
A process question, Mike, assuming that you are able to pull that job description together, we've got a regular meeting coming up next Wednesday, the 19th, I believe. And would your intention be to adopt that job description and get it sent out?
That would be, I would propose a timeline in the job description and ask for the board's direction of, we could post it as soon as that afternoon.
Okay.
And then we'd be seeking, when would you want the position to close? When would you hold initial and or second round interviews? So that you could name the successor in a timely manner. And then also the question, I've heard the sheriff's recommendation that you name this person so that they could start working with him, but not officially appoint them until his resignation in June.
That makes sense to me. I don't know how the other commissioners feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, with the timeline of potentially naming the appointee on March 1st, I think that
I caution against March 1st, just because by the time you even if you put it out for 1 week, you're probably not going to be able to have any interviews completed and chosen by March 1st. I think mid-March is definitely very doable.
I think you're going to get 2.5 months, Bill.
Yeah.
March 19th is our next regular meeting in March.
that feels more reasonable, because it is a tight timeline and we want to be mindful in this process, so.
That's great. Can we, in this work session, kind of just talk through some of that so that you can get our suggestions? I mean, I definitely feel like we want to move this along as quickly as we can. I do think it's appropriate, and I'm not exactly sure what this means in terms of HR, but not doing a national search, as Bill said, but opening it up internally and externally. I think that's what we do for all of our jobs. And I would suggest we do that immediately, not do it if we can, not do it just internally and then externally. Can we do that?
You can.
And how do the others feel about that? Just,
I'm willing to do that, but I pose the question, would we require post certification as part of an applicant's requirements to apply?
what do you think?
I do. I think
I would
that's
strongly advise that.
I
you-
agree.
okay.
I also support that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I think
You know,
that's,
some other things the sheriff didn't mention, but I think we all know is that the sheriff's office has the largest number of employees of any single office or department in the county. They also have the largest portion of the county's budget. So we want to, I would hope we would choose a candidate that would have an understanding not just of leadership and management, but also of budget.
Mhm.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because that was gonna be one of my questions and points, is that I feel that should be some criterion.
And so what I hear is I don't want you all to make decisions in this work session,
Yes.
but I'm hearing what you're saying. And this will
Right.
come forward in a proposal for you guys to act on, but continue to share any other thoughts or.
That's exactly what I was assuming as well. Okay.
We want a post certification, then an MBA, and
I think a law degree would be good too.
I think what, you can ask for all the different qualifications and et cetera. Again, it's the person and that person's character and values are going to be the most important
Mhm.
thing that you look at.
agreed.
You mentioned it's so important to understand the budget. And I try to keep an eye on the budget. I run my own businesses and things like that. And so I understand what that means. But really the important part is, what does this person stand for? And does that truly reflect the values of our community?
I agree, Bill. I was speaking tongue in cheek at the MBA.
That's an important point to discuss, I think, Bill. Is there someone on your staff who manages the financials of your department and or together with our own, county finance department?
Yes.
Is there someone on your staff that does that? What
Yes.
position is that?
Well, it's primarily Jen. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
yeah. Mhm.
That has the most interaction, and then the undersheriff oversees it as well.
Okay. And then our finance department, are they involved or more on a macro
Yes,
level?
The finance department is obviously deeply involved in all that, but the main, the nuts and bolts of managing the budget goes to Jen and her team, and seeing that those are managed properly, and all the timekeeping, et cetera, all that goes through them. And
Thank you. Are the-
Ramona is, of course,
Yeah.
the real boss. when it comes to all-
Is Ramona still on? Did she hear that?
I did hear that. Thank you, Sheriff Bell.
Mike, what other kind of direction or thoughts do you need from us in order to put together a proposal for the process?
I suppose how long you would like the position advertised for.
Okay,
Um,
I'm looking at my calendar. So if we advertise it on the 19th, assuming all goes well next week, what's typical? We should have had our HR director here. She can come next week, right?
Typically, we would advertise for at least 2 weeks for
Mhm.
this level of position.
Mm-hmm.
Which puts us, will put us closing on March 5th. And we would seek to hold interviews. We would probably want to create a special meeting to hold those interviews,
Maybe March 12th.
or sooner.
Mhm.
Because there may, depending on how many applicants you receive, you
Mhm.
may wish to do an initial round and a second round with finalists.
Mm-hmm.
There may be few applicants, in which case you may be able to make your decision all at once. But the 12th is poised to be a work session right now. You could, we don't, I'll check the agenda calendar, but I don't think you have anything. Before I say it's right here, let me just look.
Sure.
You don't have anything currently on that work session. But if you wanted to try and find time for a special meeting prior to then, we could do so as well.
I like 2 weeks. It feels right to me. However, I think the public knows and potential candidates know that this position is open. And so I'm wondering if we need the 2 weeks. It feels like in some respects, it's already kind of out there. This is just a question. I don't really know.
I think Sheriff Masters' retirement has been very publicly shared. However, I don't think the public knows when we would be opening that position. Or I think some folks may have heard he's considering retirement in June and thinking that that might be the time frame that we're looking at. So
Okay.
Commissioner Brown, I think that the 2-week minimum tradition is something that we should honor. And
I agree. Sorry.
that's okay. With that, or if you could look on your calendars, if we needed to have a preliminary meeting for the first round of discussions, Friday, March 7th presents itself, or perhaps Monday, March 10th. Even Tuesday, March 11th, if we needed to, but it'd be nice to do that a little earlier so that if we did a second round and a special meeting on March 12th, we would have had time to host those interviews and make some decisions and let potentially some candidates know that they've made the second round.
The other reality is that once you have selected a finalist or a preferred candidate, we would need to run them through the background check, make them the offer, and make sure that they've accepted before it is official.
Okay.
So that takes a few more days.
All right, so I'm looking at posting the job opening on the 19th, closing the job opening on the 5th, March 5th. And then, sorry, Lance, you were suggesting that we have first round of interviews as soon as the 7th?
If need be, yes.
Okay. I mean, we're going to need a little bit of time to review the applications, but we could
And
review
then
those
also
as,
candidates may not be available 2 days after it's closed.
Yeah, which
So
which
typically
allows the
we'll give
11th.
folks- We'll say, hey, we're gonna do interviews next week. Please hold this date or this afternoon or morning open.
well, if we set that right now, candidates could potentially, when we post the job opening, people would know as soon as the 19th that first round of interviews we could post that date, couldn't we?
Right. I might suggest you look at the Monday, the 10th,
Okay.
putting a special meeting in for those first round interviews. Knowing though that some candidates may not be available and that you may need another day and time.
So I'm kind of working on it from both ends. Our target date for the official appointment or naming of the not appointment, but the naming of the person would be on Wednesday, the 19th, because that has to happen at a regular board meeting. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so name. Okay. I mean, so we've got 2 weeks between when the job applications close, the job opening
Yes.
closes, and then when we need to make that decision. So I'm pretty flexible.
And I would assume that if you vote on the criteria that we're going to be presenting as generally has been discussed today, but when you officially act on that on February 19th, would you authorize human resources to eliminate any candidates that don't meet those minimum criteria so that you're not reviewing excess?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great.
So, yeah, right? If an application comes in,
And for instance, if you choose to say they must be post-certified, or they must be, obviously, if they're not a San Miguel County resident, that's instantly disqualifying, but some of the other criteria such as, really, it's the post would be the biggest.
So if I applied, I'm gonna get thrown out immediately.
Right.
well, I think we might have to see what other candidates we do get who have that post certification. I wouldn't want to tell the person no, maybe set them aside. And if we don't think we have qualified candidates who, which I expect we will, but who have attained that post certification, you know what I'm saying? There's a difference in my mind between tossing out the application because they're not
So
a
maybe
San
we
Miguel
just
County
have HR
resident.
Make a note that who does and does not meet the desired qualifications.
And in the posting, use the word recommended post certification.
Some are, yeah, some of these requirements some will be required, some will be recommended.
Yeah.
Or maybe a little stronger than recommended, like,
Desired.
yeah, or something. Yeah, but that, you're right, something, yeah. Okay, so we know that we want to get 2 rounds of interviews in between March 5th and March 19th. And the question is, how soon do we start? And do we need to provide 2 options for those, do you think? Like,
Typically, yes.
okay, so for the first round, we would have 2 days that they could choose from. Is that what you're suggesting?
And or it really depends.
Yeah, I would say let us build this timeline,
Sure.
bring it to you next week. I think we get the gist of
Mm-hmm.
We can talk
the
to you
focus and the
individually.
time.
As we have a draft
Yeah,
sooner than that.
and I think once we can pull this together and put a bow on it, that way it's cogent and put together.
Yep.
There will be a couple of decision points for next week and obviously a full blessing of the board. But I don't want to.
Yeah.
We will have to kind of wait and see. If we get 5 candidates, it's one thing. If we get 25 candidates, it'll be a bit of another.
And even if you have 2 that you're really keen on, but one of them can't make that in first round date, we're gonna want to have a second option for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm envisioning more that we'd have 2 dates for the first round or 2 dates and times for the first round interview based on their availability, and then maybe 1 set date for the second round interview. Because obviously, if they know that they're going to be a finalist, and this is really important, our hope is that they would move their schedule to accommodate it.
Sure. And do we need to discuss whether the commissioners will see all of the applications or whether they will be pre-screened by HR or anything?
What I'm hearing from, at least from individual board members, is you would like to see all the applications.
Okay.
So we will share all applications received with you. However, we'll ask HR to note if the candidate does not meet the statutorily required
Or the desired requirements?
or the desired.
I think that's good direction for an initial, for you guys to put together a proposal for us for next week.
Thank you.
All right, Bill, anything else to add?
No, I'm sorry that I burdened you with this, but my guess is that you'll see relatively quickly a good candidate and make the decisions properly. It'll be good.
Great.
Thank you. And I do know there is a hand up from the public, but obviously I wanted to make sure that board and Sheriff Masters has any questions or comments they want to make first.
Anybody else? Okay, Mr. Tooley, sounds like you have a comment you'd like to make in this, on this topic.
You're muted again.
Sorry, I might
There it
have
is.
muted you and I meant to unmute you.
Yeah, that happens. I heard the undersheriff mentioned briefly as one logical choice. I'll just throw out 3 more names that come to my mind without any great sense of detail. One would be Jennifer Dinsmore, Rector, who is the head of the search and rescue and would have a very substantive community connection that's not law enforcement based. And then, although he's a Republican, Chief Brody of Mountain Village. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to clarify, I was not saying that the undersheriff, anything about his candidacy. I was referring to the job description, that is the closest to the sheriff's duties in an existing job description.
That was very clear to me when you said that.
I
Jared?
just want to make the public know.
I was-
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, it is an interesting exercise when the sheriff's job description is one we have to generate out of thin air. In most counties, there's a little bit more turnover and, I just add my appreciation for Bill's long tenure in service, is I've been in many counties across this state and his time is a testament to his character and his abilities. So
Well, thank you. Thank you all for your time and once
Okay.
again, this whole process. So I'm sure you'll do fine with it.
you can count on us, Bill.
Yeah, I think I can.
We are reasonable people.
I'd like to leave it in good hands.
Thank you. All righty, carrying on, any other manager matters?
Oh, just a few things. Last week I met with the towns on the CDOT regional priorities list that Commissioner Waring and I will be sharing in person at the Gunnison Valley Transportation Planning Region meeting. We'll be heading out and we'll be there the bulk of the midday tomorrow. Yes.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brown and I met with Axis and numerous local entities on the co-responder program. And I'll let her speak to that item. I attended a community development block grant public facilities webinar. This is in relation to a request that have been made by the Telluride Medical Center for the county to potentially be an applicant for the CDBG grant, federal grant program for their future hospital construction. And so we have not agreed to anything yet. However, we are, I was present in that presentation along with Hannah Max, their grant writer. And there are numerous requirements with that federal grant that we would want to make the board aware of before any future action is taken. We received via email today a letter of support request from the Dove Creek Ambulance District. This is a group that we had supported through community donations this past year due to the fact that they respond so often to emergency incidents on Slick Rock Hill and in the Egnar area. If the board, unless the board notifies me individually that they are opposed to doing so, I would move forward with offering them a letter of support from me, because it is due on the 14th in 2 days, and it does not obligate any funds or other responsibilities from the county, just reiterates our support of them continuing to acquire additional emergency equipment.
Mike, would that be stronger if it came from the BOCC and we directed you to issue that and then we approved it?
Ratified it.
Yeah, ratified it on the consent agenda, whatever you suggest.
It may be, and so that's a good idea. I'll speak to each of you individually, and if two of you concur, then I'll move forward with that tact. We've been discussing the risk manager designation for the county. Currently, those duties are split between Christina Lambert in Human Resources and Ramona Rummel, our Finance Director. And we're looking to realign it to how it once was. Ramona had taken this duty on 2 HR directors ago when the position was in flux. And she has been carrying this extra duty for many years. And now that Christina has support in her office, we'd like to just bring that back to a sole point of contact for our, not just our workers' comp claims, but our CAP or casualty and property pool claims, to be that central point of contact with our insurer. We also, Jared, Christina, and I met to discuss reinstituting a personnel committee. The county once had one. It was last active in 2017, and we will be bringing a draft of that to you at a future meeting. And they would look at, make comments on items. It would be a recommending board, not, that would abdicate the board's responsibilities for creating and adopting policy, but they would be a forum for bringing policy recommendations for the employee handbook related to benefits, holidays, things like that to the Board of Commissioners. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that that will be coming to you in a future public meeting. Today, I have a meeting regarding an internal, planning meeting regarding the youth hangout space, that Zoe Denal from the town of Telluride spoke to us about at our last regular meeting. Trying to work through some of the details and the potential financial participations, from the county and the towns of Telluride and Mountain Village. Tomorrow, there's a planning commission meeting here. As I already mentioned, Commissioner Waring and I will be at the GVTPR, the Transportation Planning Region meeting in Montrose. I believe Commissioners Gleason and Brown will be at the SMART meeting.
Just a note, that meeting is in Norwood.
The
planning commission meeting is
Thank
in
you.
Norwood tomorrow, not here in.
Is there anything major on the agenda that we should mention? Is there, I mean, we're not looking at
The
mining.
disappointment pit.
Yeah.
Gravel mine.
Okay.
The Dolores County pit that we, they will be permitting. And the county also is a beneficiary of those actions of the pit.
Okay.
San Miguel County will be closed next Monday for observance of President's Day. At our regular meeting next week, we'll be discussing numerous things. But among them that I think may have fallen off some people's radar is an Imogene Pass update with the Forest Service and sharing of the geotechnical report that was commissioned by San Miguel County for what necessary repairs will need to be made. I've already started receiving some outreach from outfitters and guides who use that pass, inquiring. So I wanted to give you a reminder that we'll be hearing from them.
And will we be able, is there some way we can notify those outfitters who've been involved in the conversation that we will be having that report?
I have a list of all those outfitters and
Thank you.
I'll send that notification out. Just a couple others. I know that I was looking through the CCAT, Colorado Counties Acting Together. You probably received this as well. They're looking for input on Senate Bill 25-002, as well as House Bill 25-1169. The first one is regional building codes for factory built structures, and the second one is development on faith and education designated lands. This Friday, or I'm sorry, on the 21st, I know I'm looking a little far out, but CCI Steering Committee we'll be meeting again from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And I was just bringing this up to see if Commissioner Brown would like me to block at that time to potentially.
Yes, I believe that is on the 20th and the 21st.
Okay.
Why isn't that on my calendar?
So I'm already in there as a designated proxy, and obviously if
Yeah.
Commissioner Brown can't attend, one of the other commissioners can attend in her stead. I just wanted to put that on all of your radar so that we can coordinate and ensure that San Miguel County has a voice in those steering committees.
Definitely. Let's look at those agendas. Right now, I am available both days. Commissioner Gleason is interested in 4 of those committees in particular, and I would assume you'd like to attend those again this time. Are you available?
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to double check my
Sure.
calendar, but yeah, based on our conversations, I think we should plan on that moving forward with these steering committee meetings.
I appreciate that.
Divide and
I love that. I appreciate that. And you have so much more knowledge and experience in those areas. Yeah. So Mike, thank you. Right now I'm available, and it sounds like the Commissioner Gleason and I can handle that, but I'll let you know if something comes up.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks.
And then from Region 10, they just sent a list of the 3 groups that we participate in with them. That's the Gunnison Valley Transportation Planning Region, which Commissioner Waring and I are the 2 seated members. When it comes to their board of directors, again, it's Commissioner Waring, myself, but then there is also an opening if the county wishes to make a second, or really be a third member to the board of directors. We're allowed a private appointment. I'm considered the private appointment number one. So I wanted to just raise your awareness to that because I was unaware.
Is that a voting seat?
It is.
Hmm.
And then also on their business loan fund, Jack Gilbride continues to participate on behalf of San Miguel County on that group. I had sat on that for a year or two and then stepped off. There is an opening for you to make another private appointment who would sit on that loan fund committee. They preside over business loans to the counties served by Region 10. We are a lesser recipient, I'll just say, than the majority of our other counties in that regard, and that's why I got on was, but really it's only those that apply. You're reviewing their applications to make advisement for funding.
And sorry, who's the person that currently serves in
Jack
our,
Gilbride from the town of Mountain Village.
what is his role?
He is one of our 2 seats.
Okay. Okay. Well, interesting. I mean, sometimes we don't benefit from those programs because our community isn't aware of them.
Correct.
And if we did have a second person in that position, if there's somebody who's interested in the community, that might actually help us. What do the rest of you think?
What's the meeting cadence for that? Is that ad hoc or is that a set schedule?
Those are ad hoc. And my experience was that they met about 4 times a year. But it did require you not just to look over the applications that might be coming from San Miguel County, but to review all applications from all counties and provide input on those. So it was a little heavier lift than, and when I realized that I was reviewing 15 applications and none or one might be from San Miguel County, it just didn't seem like the best use of my time on behalf of the county.
I have a thought. Maybe one of us should speak with Jack and ask him if he feels like it would benefit the county for us to have a second appointment. Does that make sense?
It does.
Who's the best person to call Jack?
The chair.
The chair. Oh, gosh. I'm happy to. Would that make sense?
That'd be great.
Okay, could someone share his contact with me, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And just make a note.
And then regarding the other seat for Region 10, I think that's what did Lance and Mike would as our current members. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like you have it covered?
I'm kind of a new appointment here and haven't yet figured out the lay of the land. I'll know a lot more after the first meeting. I haven't heard from Commissioner Holstrom, who was whose seat I've taken, that those meetings were particularly stormy or that we needed to try to stack the room. So
They're typically about amendments to Region 10's bylaws.
yeah,
Fascinating.
I think we'll be okay.
Okay, let us know if you need a third person.
Is there a date that opportunity closes?
Michelle
open
Haynes, the
seat?
director of Region 10, did not indicate that. She just sent, here's what your existing seats are. Let us know
All right.
if you would like. So that I think it's an open.
So if we needed extra muscle, we could bring you in the day before.
Great. Well, we might have to appoint them first, but yeah, let us know if you feel like that would be helpful to either of you or the county.
And
Great.
we'll be speaking with Michelle tomorrow
Yeah.
at the meeting, and we can
Get more
learn
clarification.
report back tomorrow.
Perfect.
We're moving forward and working with URA in creating the shared veteran service officer position. And their attorney Leo Caselli has taken the lead on drafting that, and then obviously we'll be making comments and revisions to that. For the Pathfinder gravel pit housing project, I gave the order to submit our surface water discharge application to CDPG, And that was done while we're in the meeting today. And lastly, I was invited to speak at the CCCMA conference on a panel for new and emerging managers. That's Wednesday, April 23rd through Friday, April 25th. I said I'm interested, but I need to wait until we get closer to see if we have anything that's very hot button on that April 23rd meeting before I commit.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's a Wednesday. I would
Yes.
think you would have a lot to share that would be useful to those new managers.
It
Mhm.
could, and to be honest, even if I had to be away, I just
See
want
how
to
it
give you a
goes.
heads up. We'll see
Mhm.
how it goes as we get closer. But thank you. And that's all I have for you today.
All right.
Jared, anything?
Nothing in particular. I know all three commissioners were tuned in this week to the intergovernmental meeting where we had the housing needs assessment, kind of preliminary results. I'm going to continue working with EPS on finalizing those and finalizing the report to move ahead. And again, I think they've identified a lot of the areas where the numbers are going to be the numbers, but it's how we use them that is really going to count for a lot of our efforts.
And that will come with their final report, their suggestions?
I don't think they're going to make suggestions. They're going to give
Really?
us numbers. And
Okay.
they're going to say, here's your gap. Here's how you have been doing. I don't think EPS is really in the business of saying, here's how you develop affordable housing.
Sure.
And so that's something that we will have a lot of self-determination on. I think, one of those things that really stuck in my mind was home ownership opportunities for those folks who are who earn less than 150% AMI. Really understanding the challenges of financing those kind of projects is important, but not just resigning and giving up and saying, well, they'll all be renters, right? I think those are kind of some of the points where we'll be seeking direction of when we get to a point with Pathfinder where we're talking about tenure, right? We'll be asking some of those questions. So I hope that it got all of your juices flowing, thinking about how housing has developed since that 2018 study. And I'm excited to get the full report. That way we can, I've asked them to slice and dice a few more numbers as well and make sure that's included.
And how will the commissioners and town council members be made aware of the final report? Will there be another presentation?
It will be published. It will definitely be shared. I will share it with you for sure at the meeting. And then I think that I still have one of the reasons I'm having that conversation with EPS next week is kind of talking about those next steps. So,
Okay, great. Yeah, let's get that on a work session or a regular meeting conversation.
Commissioner
Do you
Glick?
think that we could get that slide deck that was presented in the interim?
Yes,
That would be
it
helpful.
was sent to the town of Mountain Village clerk, and I think they were going to distribute it, but I also have it and I can share.
That'd be great.
Okay, thanks.
Nothing more.
I had a couple other questions about, could you share, Ramona, if you're still on, or Mike or Jared, the document that Ramona put together for that conversation was really helpful. If we could all get a copy of that, that would be great. And then also, Mike, I'd love to see a copy of that county vacancy document that you did a screen share on.
Absolutely.
Just so I have that in to refer to. Okay, anybody? There are no more managers left. Oh, so we will go on to item.
There's a hand.
Got a hand up.
I'm sorry, I was looking at my calendar. Mr. Tooley, do you have a comment after hearing manager matters?
Hi, Doug Tooley here. Just real quick on that housing study. I was able to listen to a fair portion of the beginning of the housing presentation just this morning. Mountain Village does have that link available, which was very useful. This is a point I've made before about planning and bringing in those financial numbers at a beginning level. I think that's crucial, and the omission is that means something in just planning practice across this country. You know, there should have been better numbers on the forthcoming need for housing based on the planning process, and that just was not there. And then also to emphasize Galena's point about looking at the Norwood community as an important component of that. You know, folks in Norwood who would like to move to the East End. Thank you.
Okay, moving on now to item 8.
Solution process, but to hold off until there's clarification on whether or not there will be supplemental funding coming for this year. And if the state does provide that funding this year, the plan would be to kind of shift to a reminder letter to the state regarding their funding obligation before it moves forward with next year's budget.
And if Larimer County asks for other counties to sign on to that, let's have that discussion at that time.
Yes.
Okay.
And there is a meeting set up next week on the 20th for human services directors and county attorneys to discuss this plan further. So stay tuned for more updates on that. Unless there's any more questions on that piece.
Nope.
My next update. All right. My other update is just on the Exxon Suncor litigation. As we talked about previously, there was a oral argument yesterday in the Colorado Supreme Court. That was not in our case, which is separated out now in the Denver District Court, but this was in the case involving the city of Boulder and Boulder County. And the key question the court was considering was whether or not that case in particular belongs in state court or federal court, or whether the claims are preempted by federal law. And so even though it's not our direct case, the outcome in that case will certainly impact our case, which is currently on hold, but the same arguments have been raised in our case. So that was interesting to watch. I think it went well. There were hard questions on both sides. Our counsel doesn't make any predictions about how the court might rule on that, but we anticipate it could be several months before we see a decision from the court.
What are the implications of that case being heard in state versus federal court? Do you know?
Well, my understanding is that the federal court has already said it does not have jurisdiction over this case because it did previously go up to the U.S. Supreme Court on that question. So if the state court determines that it also does not, that the claims are preempted by federal law, I think that, that could be the end of the case. But our counsel would certainly evaluate what next steps are if that is the outcome. And then if it goes the other way, if we do end up prevailing, that this Colorado Supreme Court says, yes, this case can proceed in state court, then that would move back to the district court level, or Exxon and Suncor may seek U.S. Supreme Court review of that decision.
Okay. Anything else?
All right. That's all I have.
That's all you have. Okay, it looks like we have come to the end of our meeting, item 9, which is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. Meeting is adjourned at 12:15. Thank you, everybody.
I apologize. I have another meeting that started at noon, so.
Oh, yeah.
Go, go, go.
Good. Thank you, Mike.
Apologize for the tardiness. It's going wrong.
It
It was